welcome to Beth Roars, where we look at your favourite singers to find out what makes them them. Before we start, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and I hold loads of votes on my Instagram, so you guys can vote on who I react to. It is at Beth Roars. Also, please do check out my Patreon. You can support the channel and it really, really helps me out. Also, you can find out a little bit more about my scholarship fund for aspiring artists. But at the moment, all my reactions are based on my podcast, and this one is because in Morgan James's podcast episode, she is a wonderful singer, she talks about singers with soul, and one of the people that she mentions is Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. How come you talk with you again?
I love the harmonies.
Because a vision softly creeping
Interesting.
left its seeds while I was sleeping.
Now, Art Garfunkel is a soaring tenor. You can hear a little bit how his voice has aged here, how it's become a little bit more breathy and less stable, and that often happens at the top parts of our range as we get older, but it still is beautiful. Those harmonies are still beautiful, still spot on and so together. I mean, they've sung this for years, and in my opinion, it's one of the greatest songs ever written. And I did a reaction to the Disturbed version, and I love that version. It's very different in its build, but it is it's beautiful.
And the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence.
What's interesting is the minimal vibrato sound, a tiny bit, but they are keeping it very straight. Having that feeling of no vibrato, straight singing, it really echoes the silence and stillness. The idea of stillness is very minimally sung in terms of nuances.
In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone,
And everything's very even.
neath the halo of a street lamp, I turned my collar to the cold and damp.
And it's so light.
When my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence, and in the naked light I saw.
Okay, so now we're building up a bit. There's little bits of vibrato sneaking in. Dynamics are so important with the song, but also it's the build underneath, the instruments, the strumming of the guitar that builds underneath, and this kind of it's a very still vocal. It's not so much like the Disturbed version where he builds up bit by bit and changes octaves and adds distortion in. It's actually a lot of that build is done by the instrumentation.
10,000 people, maybe more.
Maybe more. A bit more rhythmic, a bit more uneven. It's really important to point out that those top notes from Garfunkel are not being pushed. They're not chest voicey. He's actually like almost head voice. Out. It's really light. It's a mixed one stage into mix from head voice. It's really, really light, and that gives it that really floaty, beautiful, soaring, free sort of feel instead of being pushed and loud and heavy.
People writing songs that voices
And great chord closure. Here.
Disturb the sound of silence.
Silence.
Fools that
I love that. I love the word fools. We're using that strong F to really make it sound like a fool. Now, they've done a few things with the word silence. Sometimes they've done silence and really used this as like a whispery expression. There, they sung on the silence and it was more on the n. And sometimes they're doing silence and putting the n's right on the end. Now, each time they do it, they're doing the same thing. So they know what they're doing and why they're expressing it.
silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words that I might teach you. Take my arms that I might reach out to you.
That's a really important one. People often do take and close, but you can see they're really open, both of them, take. And when they go to the take, the E part of that vowel, both of them are doing it at the same time. Harmonies are so important that all these little nuances that you really talk about it, go through it and match it up. When are you finishing notes? Are you putting vibrato on? How are you changing the vowels? How are you singing on the consonants? All these things make a difference to how together it sounds.
But my words like silent raindrops fell.
And they do just sound like a team.
And echo in the wells of silence, and the people bowed and prayed
And then changing tempo.
to the neon god they made, and the sign.
So these guys were signed at only 15 years old. They actually paid $25 to get a song that they'd wrote called Hey Schoolgirl recorded at a local recording studio, and there happened to be a promoter there, and he was like, these guys are great, and he introduced them to a record label, and they were signed at 15 years old.
Flashed its warning in the words that it was forming, and the sign said the words of the prophets are written on the subway wall.
And then the really strong diction here.
10 minutes pause and whispered in the sound
And then back. Shh.
of silence.
What a beautiful song, huh? Fantastic, fantastic musicians. Just some of the best writing around ever in history. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.